Welcome to the Empty Nester Show, where my nest isn't quite so empty anymore. The neighbor's cat makes himself at home and makes me pay attention to him, right? And the chickens are eating my weeds. Hi everyone, it's a beautiful day here in Missouri, and the grass is starting to grow, and some of the what people call weeds, flowers, like this, and then little yellow ones like this, which are wild strawberries, and of course the favorite dandelion that used to be food. My parents and grandparents would eat this, and the leaves aren't big enough on this one yet, but if you take a closer look, weeds can also tell you a story too. If you look at how little the leaves are here, and the flower is little, then you come over here, look how much bigger the leaves are and the flower is. The closer the plants are to that walnut tree, the smaller and more stunted their growth is. The walnut tree itself emits what's called jugalone. It acts like a herbicide that either stunts the growth or kills plants within 50 feet of the drip line. And that's what causes most of my issues with being able to garden in this area. Between the walnut trees and the pecan trees over there, and a walnut tree back there. But I've managed to raise my beds and using wood products, and that I can garden now, where before I really couldn't grow anything in this yard. Also, with the weather warming up early this year, the flowers were blooming the last couple of weeks, and yet some cold came in and stunted the growth of the greens. With the dandelion too, it has a really long taproot, so it can grow really deep and tap into all the nutrition that it needs, where it can grow in any type of soil. Like this area, there's something wrong with the soil. I've added clovers to improve the area, but it's pretty much barren of grass. It could be the moles, it could be any number of things, but the dandelion will bring up the nutrients from way deep, and then when this decomposes in the ground, it'll spread out the nutrition that it absorbed from below, so this dandelion kind of heals the earth also. There's also, if you can study and find out more information of what's growing where, and there's the neighbor's kitty coming to visit, actually it's kind of, part-time ours, but if you can find out what the nutrients and the nutritional benefits these are called weeds need, you can determine what your soil is abundant in. If you've got a lot of nitrogen or a lot of whatever that plant needs, it's in its growing area, and it'll help you analyze your soil too. These are also beneficial as far as they're the first food of bees. Bees need something to eat too, so if you can hold off on mowing your grass and let these plants grow, it's beneficial to you and nature. And once the grass gets high enough, like certain areas like this right here, let me make sure you can see how tall that grass is. I can go ahead and get the mower out and start mowing this out of my planting area of, this is mostly flowers in this area, and I can start pulling it, and all this is beneficial as in putting it in the compost pile. Start your compost with, like, this is Doc, It's something that I let grow here and there to attract Japanese beetles, where I can collect the Japanese beetles, but I don't want it growing everywhere, so I'll pull the dock out, or I can't do it on camera. You know, I need a little more strength to get that one out. And then before these start going to seed, you know, I will take these out and put them in the compost pile or in the sidewalks. I put, you know, mow grass and put in the sidewalks, and then after it decomposes, then I throw it on the garden. Or I will just put it on ground and start a new garden with it to let it kill the grass. See, I've put mulch here, wood chips, and these plants have sprang through it here, and I'll just pull them out before they go to seed. You know, because this is going to be a planting area this year, and that's the only place I actually remove the plants from is my planting areas, unless I see that they're beneficial, like clover. Clover gets to stay in the yard, but everywhere you look, lots and lots of beneficial flowers popping up. There's more wild strawberries. And then these guys here, up to before they go to seed, because look at the hundreds and hundreds of them. You know, they'll turn into thousands and thousands of them. And there's a really pretty little violet, I think they're called. The lawnmower itself is going to be your best friend if you want to compost or use the grass in your garden. It's best in the wintertime that you put it away with an empty tank. So you look inside, and I hope you can see that it's empty. It's going to need gas, and then you open this one over here and check the oil level and see that it needs some oil. What most people don't think about, though, is looking underneath of it. When you lift it up down here, you need to make sure the mower deck is clean, and if you can see this string right here, somehow it picked up a string from a tarp that was in the grass, and this little string may not do much damage, but a bigger string can seize the motor and lock up the motor on the lawnmower. So it's best to keep a check, you know, each time you go to use the mower and see what's underneath of it. And then, you know, servicing it should have been done either before or after. You know, changing the spark plug, changing the oil, and then checking inside the bagger. You just lift this here and pull the bag out to make sure nobody's alive in there, because it's not fun to turn it on and have something, you know, jump out of there. Once you start gardening, nothing will go to waste. In the fall, I put the leaves on the garden to keep the soil covered, but over the storms, a lot of it washes away or disappears. I also use wood chips and grass. It's, you know, right here you can see some of the grass that's left. It'll keep the soil covered, but it also will decompose and have all kinds of nutrients that'll go into the soil. And then sometimes when I put grass on the sidewalk, if you look here at this sidewalk, you can see the grass here, and it's decomposed. A lot of the things that come out of my garden just go onto the plastic of the sidewalk and turn into a mat that keeps weeds from growing through the plastic. And then I'll break this up and put it back on the soil. And there's free compost, free rich soil. You know, there's things you can do without maintaining a compost pile, but if you can make a compost pile, that's extremely beneficial to making more healthy soil. Like this, you don't have to buy fertilizers. You know, there's no need to buy a chemically engineered fertilizer when you can use things that are growing freely. Like this is a weed, just pull him out and let him pass on. You can either let it stay in the garden and decompose in the garden, or like that, throw it on the sidewalk that you've got the pathway and let it decompose there. Or go ahead and start a compost pile and collect everything that's in the compost. Look at this guy. Here's a worm at work, and I just lost him. But we're getting close to the 15th. It's almost time to start planting in the ground. So about all I'm doing today is pulling out the little guys that don't belong in the garden. And some people consider weeding work. It's actually therapy. It's kind of relaxing if you don't think of it as work. You're thinking of it as, actually you're not thinking, you know, it's like meditation. You pull the weed and just, you know, like your brain doesn't have to think about anything other than, you know, getting a charge out of the soil and seeing what it's going to be like for you to grow in it. There's a deep one. Sometimes in here, when you find things, they turn out to be potatoes. And I like finding potatoes. Over here, let's see. You gotta tell by the look of the leaf. That's a weed, that's grass. Dig a little bit more. There's something else starting. I don't normally mess with the soil because the soil is already rich and it has a growing network that it's growing in. And all I do is poke a hole, dig a hole, and put in a potato or a plant. And that's about it. You know, I might add more, you know, what's that called? Cow manure to the area. But I don't dig up the area unless it really, really has to. Right there, it looks like a potato growing on its own. Let's take a look. Yep. There's a potato I left from last year. I overlooked it, and it made it through the winter, and it's growing on its own. It's getting back. Actually, there's two potatoes there. And here's more of the grass. I'll just break it up and let it be part of the soil. That over there looks like another potato. And it's got some hard ground here. The rain we had last year compacted some of the grass. Not the grass, some of the ground. And some of the ground I have to rework and get it back to growing standards. And that's as simple as adding cow manure and compost to it. Now that my daughter has a donkey, we can add donkey, actually she has two donkeys now, and we can add donkey manure, you know, after it's composted. Take the dog for a walk. Stubborn dog, come on. Come on. Let's go for a walk, doggy. The other one says, take me, take me.